Okay, so addition and subtraction of vectors here. What we're going to do is we're going to use these as the vectors that we decide to add and subtract. And you'll start to realize that as soon as you understand scalars, really everything is addition, just working on with positive or negative scalars here. So we have vector A and B. So if I need to add these vectors together, so let's say the question is posed, example 1 is vector A plus vector B. What would that be the equivalent of? Well, this is where you put tail to end of one vector to the other. So we start with vector A, that's what the instruction is. And we take vector A here, set it up, and then we take our vector B and put it together. Now, the key part here is...
You don't have to write the A.
Yeah, I'm going to write them in right now. The key part here is that when using a vector, we're not using some kind of vector that has been kinked or broken here. It creates a new vector, and that new vector is the start of A to the end of B. So in other words, this now represents vector A plus B. Okay, so this red line is the addition of the two vectors. So it's not like we're following a trajectory or a path here. We create a new vector.
It's not like a triangle.
No, it's not like a triangle. Okay, this is the new vector here. So this is, if you were to add the two vectors together, this would be. And this is the kind of concept when planes will hit winds or tailwinds and stuff. So maybe a plane is flying at this direction at this speed, and then you have a wind coming from here. Well, what ends up happening is it pushes the plane to go at a faster speed but a different angle, right? So that's what this kind of thing is. And in plane flight, it tends to be what they try to associate vectors with. Let's pose another question here. Let's say question 2 said we want vector 2a subtract 3b. Okay. Well, what does that mean? Well, we can use scalars to represent these concepts, right? Yes, exactly. So we're going to have 2 of A. So I'm going to pull down, 1 and 2. And I'm going to need a little room for this, so I'm going to have to scroll down just a little more here. So here's our 2A's. And then we're going to need vector B, but we're going to have to flip directions here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin it around. I think, what was it, 3 wide? Yes. Purposely chose this one so we know that. There we go. So we've now think of this as negative B. Okay, so this is negative vector B. And then I need 3 of those, right? So we have clone 1, so we have 2, and clone again, 3. Wonderful. Let's make some space. So let's say we're starting here, and these are our 2 vector A's. So here's vector A, which means this is the equivalent of, I'll draw a new line in green here. Yes, exactly. So this is now the equivalent of 2 vector A. And then...
The vectors that line?
Yes, exactly. And now here we go. So we have vector B, and vector B. Okay. It's not quite tail to tail, but as best we can here. Here's vector B. There's 2 of them. There's 3. And actually, this isn't vector B. This is vector negative B, right? Because our original vector B was heading in a east direction. These are all heading in a west direction now. This is the equivalent of, and we'll make a blue line here. So this is now the equivalent of negative 3 vector B. Okay. And finally, well, we go from our starting point to our ending point here. So our new vector here, and technically this was subtraction, but because we really just make this negative, it's kind of like adding the vectors together. Our new vector here, this is 2 vector A minus 3 vector B. This is our new vector from here to here. Yeah, so from our starting point, we'll call this S. You could call this the end here. Maybe this is a distance of something. So you can see our angle has changed, our direction has changed immensely, and the distance has changed immensely. Okay.
But there would be like a square.
If you're putting, you can put 3 vectors together. Yeah, I could. If there was a 3rd vector to add in, vector C here, maybe it went down this way, then our new vector would be there. Exactly. You can add as many vectors as you want together. This is Exactly. You just kind of connect them from start to end. So your tail to, I don't know what the other word, tail to end, I guess. I don't
So
know
once
what
you
word.
get the new vector, do you just like forget about the other?
Yeah, the original, the other things, almost think of them like you're fading them to the back. It'd be great if I could think as blue. Now let's use orange. This is like it's been faded to the back. That was a terrible one to use. And this is our highlighted. This is the vector that's important now. That's what the resulting is. So this is the result of vector 2 vector A minus 3 vector B. That yellow part's important, and this maroon stuff is kind of faded away.
Yeah.
It's not important for what we're doing now.
It's pretty